All right, welcome back, everybody, to the ATB and if excuse me, jeez, NFL live show. You think I'd be drinking on Easter? I'm not even drinking. I just can't talk. Anyway, welcome back to the ATB NFL live show. We hope you're having a great Easter. If you guys are celebrating that, we're clearly not at the moment because we're here talking about football, which we'll see.
Hey,
So
people do that on Easter.
Oh, they do. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know I do. We'll see. But we're going to jump into this real quick here. So there's a few things we want to talk about before we get to our main point today, which is going to be mock drafts, specifically dueling mock drafts for Tony and Zach here, since they are fans of teams both in the AFC East. They're going to do mocks for all four teams, talk about what they would not want to see happen for their rival teams and what they want to see happen for their team. So be interesting to see how they compare and contrast. We'll get into that. And then I will be by myself, so they will be able to both critique me, which will be interesting. We'll see. I'm going to be drafting for my favorite team, the Steelers, of course, if you couldn't, tell by everything. And, of course, the rest of the AFC North as well. So we're going to get into that. But really the only big piece of news, and I don't even know if I want to call it big, it's more of just kind of an admission of what we already expect to happen. Jets GM Joe Douglas at a fan event recently did kind of basically say that Rodgers is coming. He's on his way. It's just going to be how he gets there, what the pieces are, all that good stuff. They also have Odell coming in for a visit, which I think that's very interesting too. That receiving core is definitely rounding into good shape, especially if they can bring him in on a relatively affordable contract. We'll see what that would work out to. But I'll start with Tony here. What do you guys think about just basically him admitting that that Rodgers is coming, and also whether or not Odell might be coming there as well?
Yeah, I think him openly saying at fan events like that they're building around Rodgers, it just confirms what we've all already known. Just everything's agreed to except for the Packers want a little bit more out of it, and the both teams are comfortable waiting. The Packers have a hard deadline of the draft, right? Because they want to get those picks, they want to capitalize, and the Jets don't really have any reason to move, right? Like they're not desperate until until we get later in the process and maybe things break down, but they're not desperate right now. They can wait it out. So just confirms what we already knew, that we're just waiting on what compensation to come through. And then the Odell Beckham piece, I think I hate, just going to come out there and say that I hate it because I don't want him there. I wouldn't mind him in Buffalo,
Yeah.
but I do think it makes sense. There was a lot of talk last year that he was interested in the Packers. We thought he was going to be coming in last year. He wants to play with Rodgers. He wants to play with somebody like Rodgers. He wants to have an opportunity for a ring. The Jets aren't the top spot there, but they're a team that has an opening for him. And I think it makes a lot of sense. You want to put star receivers around Aaron Rodgers if you're making that move. So all in all, I think more information helps us confirm our beliefs, but nothing in the grand scheme changes. I really hope that the Odell stuff falls through.
Yeah, I don't blame you. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Odell stuff, this is the 10th team that he's had ties to going to. So
it's been everywhere. Yeah,
it's a grain of salt for me at this point until he's actually sitting down and being like, "Oh yeah, I have contracts in the works." That's when I'm going to be like, "All right, cool."
Yeah,
because he's been playing this game for the past 6-7 months. So, and not that I don't like Odell, he deserves to be able to do this because obviously people want his talents. Yeah. But I'm not gonna put any hard
stock into it. Yeah.
Stock into anything until I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this actually seems like it's gonna happen. Because why would he go somewhere if he's not yeah, they say it's gonna get done, but as you just said, Tony, if they can't get this done before the draft, then everything flips to being in Green Bay's favor because they have a quarterback they can start building with because they've totally shown that they're going to go with Jordan Love. At that point, if they don't get it done by the draft, the Jets are the ones that are a little bit screwed because they have to start. How are they going to bring a new quarterback into their offense that they're expecting to do and not have any time? I'm just saying it's going to flip to being they're going to be the ones wanting to get it done quicker as opposed to just being able to wait. If it doesn't get done by the draft, I don't think it won't get done by the draft though.
I will say, so yeah, if the draft passes and the deal isn't made, the Jets do get more eager, but the Packers are not going to pay that $60 million number that hits right before the start of the season. So no matter what, Aaron Rodgers has to be off their roster. The Jets, I get it. You're missing out on training camp with Aaron Rodgers and everything, and that sucks. But if they wait it out, really, like, it's going to reach the point, and I said it if I were the GM of the Packers last week, it would turn into a Brock Osweiler situation where you're paying a team a pick to get that contract off your books. There's no scenario where Aaron Rodgers is on the roster of the Green Bay Packers come August. So I think, like, yes, the Jets have to get more eager if the draft passes, but ultimately the Packers are still the ones that are completely forced to move on from Rodgers in any way, shape, or form.
I think ultimately the issue with that comes down to, if you're Rodgers, right, you obviously want to be there as fast as possible because it's going to give you the best chance to start things and get things working. You also have to consider for the Jets, like, they want to have him in the building as soon as possible as well, because, again, the sooner they can say that he's here and actually he is there, the sooner maybe Odell wants to join, the sooner that some other players that are kind of like free agents right now that maybe they want to fill out the roster with are more interested in them as well. The draft becomes an important detail because if they know that they have their entire arsenal of picks, is going to change what they do in the draft if they know they're going to use picks next year and beyond to get the deal done. So much has to be figured out because their draft plans literally have to change. Like, if they know, okay, well, now we're going to have all our picks. If the Packers say, like, we're not doing this deal right now, but we'll talk after the draft, now they're going to have picks that maybe they didn't expect to have. Like, so much has to go into all this. I think that both sides want to have it done before the draft, obviously, because then they have the most information available. But if the Packers are going to be stingy about it, if they're saying, like, if they still want pick 13, it's just not going to happen. And I think the Packers need to understand that. Like, if that is the hang-up, which there's been reports saying yes and no to that, but if that is the hang-up, it's going to continue to be a hang-up. The Jets are not giving up a valuable pick at 13, who they can probably use, and we'll see what you guys do with it, to get a tackle to help protect him, or, whatever it ends up being. They're not going to give up that pick while Rodgers is coming in because they need that premium pick to help build the roster. So both sides have to come to an agreement and say, okay, we understand that Rodgers is really important to what you guys are trying to do. We understand we need him off the team. What needs to happen to make that happen? I think it's 42, most likely. And I think you guys kind of, when we were talking about the draft and doing the mock draft, you guys kind of agreed on that. And then a conditional pick next year. Maybe it's a second that can become a first if they win a Super Bowl or whatever, or a third if he retires after next year, like, whatever it is. That feels like what it's going to be, and I just want them personally to get it over with so we can stop talking about it. And two, because I think it's important for both teams to know exactly what they have going into this draft. It's really hard to formulate a draft plan if you don't know what picks you're going to have. It just is. So that's what I think is going to end up happening. I think it's going to be that. I don't know if you guys feel differently, but that's where I'm kind of at with it.
Yeah, and I don't know. We can get to it when we get to the Jets portion of it. I modeled out what I think the trade is going to be. It's right in line with that. I just have a different condition and a player involved too. But it's going to be 42 plus whatever. Right. That's what it's going to come down
That's what
to.
It feels like it's going to happen.
That's the Elijah Moore move was just such a clear, like, they're like, ooh, let's move up to pick 42. So now we have 42 and 43 back to back. Wonder what we can do with those. Like, we all know.
Yeah. But with that being said, let's move into our mocks. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go over the Bills because they are the reigning division champions. We're going to start with them. Tony, of course, is the resident Bills fan here, so he's going to start with this one. Give us your full 7-round mock, everything you think they would do, and then, Zach, you're going to go right after, and then we'll discuss kind of where you guys went with everything. So, Tony, the floor is yours.
All right. I'm going to piss off my entire fan base here.
Oh, fun.
Do we want to say what mock we used?
Oh yeah, that's a good move. So I used the PFF mock draft simulator. I was already subscribed, so
I figured you two both used that. And
as
usual, I'm using PFN.
The PFN guys got to use PFN. I don't blame you. Go for it. Yeah.
I used a mix of my own player rankings and then also the PFF big board once things got thin enough from what players that I've watched. And then I will say, like, I also looked at all 4 rosters and contracts ending and made my own how I perceive team needs to be, which probably can differ from whatever mock draft source you're using.
Yeah, the consensus,
So good info to share there. So the way I approached pick 27, and all of these picks won't have this deep level analysis, but I think the first round I've looked at enough where I have deeper thoughts on it. So the glaring need for the Bills is middle linebacker. there's 2 players in this draft that can fill that need. There are only 2. So if your dream is to, take one in the mid rounds and have them replace Tremaine Edmonds, no, that Tyrell Dodson and Balin Spector and Terrell Bernard, they're all the exact player you'd get in the middle rounds. You have Jack Campbell and you have Drew Sanders. Those are the only 2. However, I don't see them as like significant like stars. Like I just see them as like the only guys that can fill the hole. And so the idea of picking them at 27 kind of just reeks of desperation to me, and I don't like it. Even though like I may have come there on my own, the fact that it's such a big need, it feels like I'm forced into it, and I don't think it's going to happen. So I took a player who's higher on my board, one of my favorite players in the draft. I really wanted to trade out. I will say that. I'm rambling here, but I wanted to trade out. I had Zay Flowers on the board. I had Anton Harrison tackle on the board. I had both the linebackers on the board. I wanted to trade out. Nobody was biting. So I stayed home and took my favorite player there, and that's Keanu Benton, D tackle from Wisconsin.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with Benton's game. I think he has all the tools to step in and be a day one starter, and then ultimately we can move on from Ed Oliver after his contract year here, and he is a stud. Like he just completely changes the math on what your middle linebacker has to do. So I feel like picking Benton at 27 does more to solve our middle linebacker problem than picking Drew Sanders or Jack Campbell at 27. So I'm sitting at 59 now. I wanted to trade up for Drew Sanders. Right. He was sitting there right around like 45, and I was getting antsy. And ultimately, I got sniped. I was trying to be patient, and he got sniped. And all the linebackers went like that. So I did not end up trading for a linebacker. I traded back instead when it got to my pick because I didn't like who was there. So I traded back with the Arizona Cardinals. I gave up 59 and 130, and I received 66 and 96. So, just a little pick swap, just a little move up. And I got Derek Hall at pick 66, edge rusher out of Auburn. This is a guy I'm really high on. I think he's got exciting athletic tools. He's not that like strong, like he's not going to power rush anybody, but he's speed around the edge. And I think there's a lot more to his game that can be uncovered. Reminds me kind of a Shaq Lawson coming out, a guy the Bills drafted in the first round years back. So just building the trenches, continuing to invest out right now, opposite Greg Rousseau, we're gonna have AJ Epinesa starting because Von Miller is gonna start on like PUP or something. We can't have that. That's a problem. So bring in a good edge player. Pick number 91, another guy I absolutely love, Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. He's a top 8 receiver for me. He might end up top 5, just depending on how I feel the day of the draft. But I love his size, his speed. He's like 6'1", 220 something. He won really, really fast, great explosive scores. Best run blocker in the class, and then just can do a lot, deep threat plus rack. So I love him in our offense. Then pick 96. So this is the result of the trade up with Arizona. Yeah. I'm bringing in the tackle help now. So I'm getting Wanya. I've heard Wanye. I don't know which one it is, but yeah. Wanya Morris, tackle out of Oklahoma. Played right tackle for them. I think he's got some tools that are fun to work with. I think he can be like a swing tackle that might even have some guard versatility. So just stocking the cupboards at offensive line. And then 137 in the 4th round, Zach Kuntz, tight end out of Old Dominion. I feel like some people are going to mispronounce that, and it'll be funny.
Oh, yeah.
But he's just, I think he tested as like the most athletic tight end of all time, according to RAS. He was one of however many tight ends there have been. So why not? He's got like good tight end skills too. So exciting combination of traits and skill there. And then the final pick at 205, another D tackle, Jonah Tavai out of San Diego State. Really, really good production. He's a little bit on the smaller side, kind of like an Ed Oliver build, but longer arms, so I'm not as worried. And then ultimately, at the end of this season, the Bills have no D tackles under contract going into 2024. So getting 2 guys that I can, guarantee are going to have a contract in that room, I'm really happy about. So the whole draft class was Keanu Benton in the 1st round, Derek Hall in a trade back in the 2nd round, Jonathan Mingo in the 3rd, Wanya Morris as a result of a trade up in the 3rd, Zach Kuntz in the 4th, and Jonah Tavai in the 6th. So nice little package of players there. And I know a lot of Bills fans are going to hate it, but I think it's the responsible way to do it.
All right. Well, I want to see what Zach says first, and then I'll kind of see what I want to say about it. But what do you think, Zach, with your mock specifically?
All right. So I was the Bills, and the 27th pick came on the board. And as Tony did not do this, I went with wide receiver Zay Flowers out of Boston College.
Ooh, okay.
Add on to that, a very, very, very good wide receiving core right now that gives you Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and then you get Zay Flowers as well as Khalil Shakir, as he was starting to do a little bit towards here and there in the season. But then after that, it's, hey, Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy, what do you guys got? Can you guys... Now, I think Sherfield, after watching him last year, will be fine. But
if he's your fourth or fifth, you're happy for sure.
Oh, well, you know, he's just fine being a third. If and all the stuff about timing and stuff, I mean, yeah, say what you want about, but that's specifically an offensive thing. I don't think it has anything to do with Tua, but you know, open him up to do a bit more and not be forced into a very specific scheme of Mike McDaniel, and he might have a bit more success of being open up. But put a little bit of fire under him with Zay Flowers right there. So then the second round came around and I wasn't really liking the board all that much, but there was still one guy that I did take, and that was Boise State safety JL Skinner. With the 59th pick. Very, very, very like vocal secondary player and very good at setting and like finding coverages. Very good at coming and identifying underneath passes and stuff like that. So just giving more with just some of the injury stuff that happened last year.
Poyer both are probably on the way out, if not soon. So
yep, and just keep establishing that secondary. Keep it lean, keep it mean. I did address linebacker in the third round with Owen Pappoe from, I think, is that how you say it, Pappoe?
I actually don't know how to say it. I
think it's
but
Pappoe,
yeah, the Auburn linebacker.
Yeah, the Auburn linebacker. I mean, as you stated, Tony, Terrell Edmonds is gone. You still have Matt Milano, but you have to start rebuilding the linebacking group. And I mean, it's not going to be your Jack Campbell. It's not going to be some of the better linebackers, but you still have to start addressing it. And Sean McDermott is a hell of a coach. He'll find ways to get the most out of his guys. The fourth round, I took a cornerback from Oregon State, Alex Austin, with the pick 130. And then going down to the fifth round with 137, I took Jordan McFadden from Clemson, offensive tackle, to start with offensive line help. And then another linebacker flyer at 205 in round 6 with Shaka Hayward out of Duke.
Okay. Yeah, he was a former Penn State, I believe, player as well.
Yes.
So yeah, as much as I'm not a Penn State fan, I'm familiar with the team enough to know that.
Just you wait.
Down, yeah, run down
my Patriots won. Penn State gets real bad.
Okay. Any thoughts or anything? That's all your picks, right, for the Bills?
Yeah. So the first pick with 27 was wide receiver Zay Flowers. Second pick, safety JL Skinner with 59. Third round 91 linebacker Owen Pappoe out of Auburn. The fourth 130 cornerback Alex Austin out of Oregon State. The fifth round 137 offensive tackle Jordan McFadden out of Clemson, and then the sixth round 205 linebacker Shaka Hayward out of Duke. Also, I guess a very big key for all of my drafts, I really don't do trades because I'm not great at
it's hard to. I didn't do much of that either. So
I only accepted one because I felt the value was incredible, and we will see what that one was.
Okay. But so I want to start with Zach, since you just went. I want to have you talk about what you think about Tony's draft, because I'll kind of talk about both yours after you each have a chance to respond. So
I was a bit surprised with the Benton pick, and I guess that's more so because I guess his ranking is a bit lower in the PFN mock draft, because I selected him I think in the third round for another team. So I was like,
PFF's got him in like the 50s too, but I promise you he doesn't get further than the Philadelphia Eagles at 30.
So that was the only one that caught me off guard, but that's more so, again, most of the time it's like, rankings are very different from place to place, and like there's going to be so many differences there. But I mean, I'm not going to really speak much about the Bills because I'm going to say that Tony has a much better idea of what the Bills need than I do.
Right.
So
okay. Anything you want to talk about with Zach's mock there, Tony?
Yeah. So I do love Zay Flowers, and I love the fit that he would be in Buffalo. The reason I stayed away is and of course this didn't materialize the way the draft went for me, but I see this receiver class as like types, and the small, tiny, quick, like polished route runner and everything, dynamic threat, that exists just up and down the board. And I don't think Zay Flowers like stands out to me as like overly special. And then so I'm thinking like, maybe I can get Tank Dell, like 2 rounds later, or like Marvin Mims even. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of guys that do the same thing. So I'm not super high on going the small receiver, or really any receiver in round 1, because I don't like Quentin Johnston. But the JL Skinner pick is interesting because for years I was obsessed with the idea of the Bills getting we called it, like, everybody was in on it, the Buffalo nickel. So just like a big slot defender. And I mean, JL Skinner, I think he's like 6'4" or something. Like that's him. I would definitely be on board with it. I think because of the way Taron Johnson plays the slot, like I'd be concerned about getting them both on the field consistently, especially now that we brought in Taylor Rapp. But Taylor Rapp's on a 1-year deal. Like you said, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are aging. DeMar Hamlin is probably going to return, but we don't know that for sure. So like I don't mind a high pick at safety at all.
JL Skinner is 6'4", 209.
Yeah,
he's a big boy.
They got that J-Ron Curse build.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I was satisfied with it. I think I would have liked to see more trenches on the defense, but like maybe instead of the double down at linebacker, because the room is pretty filled out with like guys who are going to play the same role as the what's his face, the Duke kid.
Shaka Hayward.
Shaka Hayward, yeah.
But overall, like, I think it's a realistic draft too. Like, there's always a double dip at some position. There's like, you're not like going stud finding or anything. So I think it was a good draft. I wouldn't be sad about it. It would be the reaction I've had to a lot of Bills drafts under Bean, where I'm like, I trust him. He knows better than me.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, just you wait for double dips. I'm sure we both have quite a few for the Patriots.
All right, let's move into Miami's mock draft for both of you. We'll start with Zach this time, since obviously Miami fan. Smaller draft class, so shouldn't take as long, and more probably need specific than anything else. But what do you got for us, Zach?
So, full transparency on this one as well. There was a slight miscommunication in my show prep. I thought we weren't drafting our own team, so this one is done in a different mock draft all on its own. But there are no same picks from any of my other mock drafts. However, the only difference is going to be boards might have bounced differently, but there's nothing I can do about that.
Right.
It'll be very close enough. Like,
yeah. So with the Dolphins' first pick, which is in the second round, correct? 51 is in the second round.
Yeah.
I was able to select Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama, which I will take any day of the week. We have the Miami 49ers duo in the running back room right now. But that is a position that has long been needed in Miami. It has been a position that has long been undervalued in Miami. We do not run the ball. Teams and coaches talk about all the time how you don't need to run the ball to establish the pass and all that stuff. And yes, you're right, but you have to at least have a threat of it. And that's been a problem for the Dolphins for a long time, is there literally was no threat of a positive rushing attack. So why even worry about it? I feel Jahmyr Gibbs, while it's not Bijan Robinson, it's like the second or third. He's the second or third best running back prospect in the class, and I will take that in a heartbeat. With 84, I took Keanu Benton. This is why I was like, hey, really, really help out the defensive line, which isn't necessarily a bad unit, but last year we saw one of the biggest issues on both sides of the ball was depth. And right now at the moment, all they have at nose tackle is Raekwon Davis. You need somebody else behind him. So Keanu Benton would be fantastic. As we just said, though, I do not think, and Tony does not think, and Shayne does not think he will last until pick 84. So this is a pipe dream, but it was available.
Got to make the pick if he's there, right?
Oh yeah, you got to make the pick. With pick number, I hate when I have these ads at the bottom and I can't close. With pick number 197, kind of getting into the weeds now. I selected offensive guard Sidy City So. Yeah, SOW, out of Eastern Michigan. There's not really much left at this point, and this was the highest offensive guard available. I'm taking stabs as the Dolphins have in the past. And then at the last pick that they have in with 238 in the 7th round, I took linebacker Cam Jones out of Indiana. So this is really a swing and miss at the top 2 picks in this draft. If you hit, awesome. If you miss, man, you better have hit on all of the other things that you've done in the past couple years, because you kind of played your own hand.
Interesting. What do you think, Tony? Let's start with what you're going to do with Dolphins here.
Yeah. No City So or whatever his name is for me. I have not gotten around to Eastern Michigan tape. Probably won't. So just to kick it off, to preface this, this is the team I wanted to trade down with the most, because just looking at it, you have 4 picks this year, only 2 of them in the top 100, like only 2 of value really. And then next year you have your 1, your 2, your 5, your 6, your 7. You're missing the 3 and the 4. So like I was hoping, like, man, big trade down, try to get another pick this year and another pick in the future. Nobody was biting. So I sat home and made my picks. At pick 51, I do think this is a pipe dream. I think he has a sneaky chance to go at the back end of round 1, if not an early day 2 guy. But Matthew Bergeron, tackle out of Syracuse. I know for a fact that Kyle Krabs of Locked On Dolphins and the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast has Matthew Bergeron as like his favorite trade up target from 51. So if he's there, I think that's a run ticket to the podium. Great starting right tackle day 1. Push somebody inside. You're filling out your offensive line holes. Pick 84. So the only other player I considered there was Sam Laporta, tight end out of Iowa, because he's got a little bit of that Kittle in him. It would have been fun, but tackle was too important there. Pick 84 of the 3rd round, I have Kobe Turner, D tackle out of Wake Forest. Okay. A little bit of a smaller guy, but he doesn't really show up on film. His production's insane. He's really, really good. I think similar to you picking Keanu Benton here, it's just filling out depth in a room that could thin out in the near future. And honestly, it's just such an important position that like it doesn't hurt to continue to invest in. Round 6, pick 197. This is where I finally get around to tight end, which I do have as the biggest or second biggest need for the Dolphins. But Will Mallory out of Miami, he doesn't have to travel very far, so that's a plus for him. Honestly, it's not what I wanted out of a tight end addition to Miami, because he is he's not Gesicki. Like he's not Mike Gesicki, but he is similar in that he's not much of a blocker. He's just like a RPO quick pitch tight end. Like I don't know. He's got some skills. He's got the receiving skills. You got to build up the blocking. You got to build up the rest. But I think he can step into that offense day 1 and be utilized, which for pick 197 is valuable. And then round 7, pick 238. It was actually one of my top 4 needs for this team when I studied everything. Wide receiver. Outside of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, who said he's going to retire in 2 years. Yeah. It's thin. Cedric Wilson, sure. Yeah, I know they're like high on Igmika Ibuka. Is that how you say it? There's a couple other guys in the room, but you just have to continue to invest in it, especially when the reason your offense can be elite is because your offensive coordinator is a genius, you have great receivers, and your quarterback can distribute. So you have to keep that cupboard full at all times. So I have Justin Shorter out of Florida. Big size, big, like super great athletic profile. He killed the jumps. I think he's an exciting downfield threat with size, which is something that's kind of lacking. He can line up in the slot and, just rip it. So I think he's an exciting addition to the wide receiver room and something, just continue to invest in that position. So I've got Matthew Bergeron in the 2nd round, Kobe Turner in the 3rd, Will Mallory in the 6th, and Justin Shorter in the 7th.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because especially the flyer and Shorter, he's just a big athletic guy. Like that could be interesting for sure. It's tough with the Dolphins, right? Because
as long as Mallory doesn't fall over or stumble like a baby deer when he catches the ball, it's already an upgrade over Gesicki. So,
okay.
I mean, don't get too excited.
No, I know.
But I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? The man can't run. Like,
I know he
catches the ball and then immediately like looks like a brand new born baby horse. Like
He's just lanky, man. He's just lanky. He's got.
he is.
So.
All the best to him in what
New England.
New England. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But hey, tight ends have been kind of a weird position for them really since.
Yeah, they have Hunter Henry too still.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I like those drafts a lot for the Dolphins. I think again they have very specific needs. You need to fill them, and you need to just fill out the roster now that you've committed a ton of money into a lot of guys, and kind of see where it goes from here. See if you can win something.
What happens.
But
yeah,
I'll move on to the Patriots now. Draft, right, guys? So I'm going to start.
Or is it Jets first?
Be Patriots pick ahead of them or pick.
Yeah,
that's right.
reverse order.
Yeah.
We're gonna do Patriots next year. We'll go back to Tony here. Right? This is a big one. This is these guys got a lot of picks, so we'll see what you guys do with this one.
12.
Yeah. They had 12 picks.
They had 12 at the start. We'll see if
I
they
had 12 picks.
Yeah.
So going into the draft, the Patriots have 12 picks. It's a lot of picks. And to give you a breakdown of what those picks are, they have their own first, their own second. They have Carolina's third, which is a good pick. They have the Rams' fourth. They have their own fourth, and they have a compensatory fourth. That is 3 fourth-round picks. They have 4 sixth-round picks. Yes. One from Las Vegas, one from Carolina, one of their own, and a comp pick. So that's a lot of picks, and they 3 top 100 picks, pick 107, 117, 135. Like, it's a lot of picks, but they're not going to be like plus starters. No. And it's not the Patriots don't have a great roster, but they have a pretty relatively complete roster outside of one glaring need. And because of all of those picks, the fact that they're not going to get plus starters in the mid rounds and they have a glaring need made me think perfect team for a trade up. And so I just traded up with them to the Eagles, pick 10, and I gave up pick 14, pick 76, and pick 184. So I cleared 3 picks off of the board for me, made my life a lot easier, turned it into 1 pick. And I checked it with the trade value charts. It plays out pretty nicely. And so Peter Skoronski was off the board at this point, but he was the only tackle off the board. So they move up and they get Paris Johnson Jr., anticipating a run. Right. So they get a stud tackle. Probably left tackle, could play right tackle. He's just a stud. Best tackle in the draft for my money, as I have said many times. Then they're up on the clock at 46, and I tacked what I have as their second biggest need, and that's cornerback. So I brought in a player that I have concerns with, but I think New England is the right spot for him. Okay. Emmanuel Forbes out of
all right.
I have Mississippi State down. Now I'm forgetting though. Is he Mississippi State or Missouri?
Mississippi State.
Okay, cool. I got confused there. But yeah, he's tall and he's super lean. He's like 6 foot, like 166. Nobody's built like that. I have my concerns with how his body will hold up to the NFL, given his play style is playing like he's a linebacker. He loves to dive into hits. He is a Bill Belichick player on defense through and through. So just a great press man corner. Size is the only concern. Take that swing in the second round. Now they've got their 3 fourth-round picks. So I've got the first of them at pick 107, Trey Palmer, wide receiver out of Nebraska. Just adding to the receiver room, I do think his skill set is kind of redundant with Tyquan Thornton, but this is one of the slowest teams in the league. You just got to get speed on the field, and he's a fast one with upside too, because it's not like Nebraska is the greatest at using offensive players.
No, they're not. It's tough to grade those guys. Yeah.
Then I'm their next 4th-round pick, 117. I have them taking Carl Brooks, kind of like a hybrid. I have him as a 3-tech in their scheme
for sure.
Out of Bowling Green. He didn't test incredibly well, but you see the motor on tape, and I think that's going to really stick out to Belichick. And I think they have a sneaky need in that room because they have a lot of aging guys. They have the kid out of Alabama, Christian Barmore. But that, other than that, like they have needs there. Then in the 4th round, still in the 4th round, pick 135, and admittedly not a player I'm super familiar with. I know he rose up PFF's draft board. Anthony Johnson Jr. from Iowa State, he's only had 1 year of experience at safety. He was a converted corner. I think Belichick likes those like versatile guys who have made a position switch. You can find out more about them. So that's actually a theme with a couple other picks. Actually starting with the Karl Brooks pick, he played edge in college. So just defenders who are switching positions, for some reason screams Bill Belichick to me.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Their first pick of the 6th round, 187. I have Broderick Martin, D tackle out of Western Kentucky. I love this guy. He's big. He's real big. He's like 330 and he's doing backflips and shit. He's a cool player and an explosive player. And I think a really good foil to Karl Brooks. And so like if you get both of them into your D tackle room, you can have some nice different skill sets to play with. At 192, another position change defender, I have Marte Mapu, the former safety. I'm drafting him as a linebacker out of Sac State. I know he's getting a lot of growing buzz. I think just another Belichick player. He's got a little bit. He's going to be small for a linebacker, which doesn't really scream Belichick to me, but I'm sure they'll find a way to use him.
They'll use him in some overhang role or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. Some apex defender. Like, they'll get it done. And then pick 210 of the 6th round, I was just shocked that he was still on the board here, so I had to double dip. I got Warren McClendon, tackle out of Georgia. I think he's way better than this. I think he's like a 4th round talent. And so to get Paris Johnson Jr., your stud guaranteed starter tackle, and then also double dip and bring in a very capable guy like Warren McClendon, I think you're really filling out an aging room with some guys who have a lot of upside. So the full draft, I thinned it out by trading away 2 picks, only brought in 10 players, I think. But Paris Johnson Jr. in the 1st round, Emmanuel Forbes in the 2nd, Trey Palmer, Karl Brooks, Anthony Johnson Jr. in the 4th, Broderick Martin, Marte Mapu, and Warren McClendon in the 6th. And that is your New England Patriots draft.
All right, there's definitely one player I want to talk about, but I'm going to let Zach do his mock here first.
Do we want to talk about it? Because I don't know if I'm going to remember.
Okay, well, so the player that's definitely sticks out to me is Emmanuel Forbes. And my thing with him is I think he's to me a 2nd round or high end 2nd round player to about however many teams run Vic Fangio scheme. If you play him in the Fangio scheme, he's going to be I think a very quality starter. If you play him anywhere else, I think he should probably be drafted in the 4th or 5th round. The size is just a major concern in any sort of coverage that doesn't have him playing off and reacting hard downhill, because I don't know if when he gets bumped, because I've seen enough of this film at this point, he gets thrown around. Like, he just does not have mass on his frame. But I think if you allow him to trigger downhill and not have to worry about getting to traffic or playing press man or any of that stuff, like you just let him kind of play off the ball and react to things, he's going to get turnovers. He's got great ball skills. That was one of his traits that he had in college for sure. So I think it just comes down to, like, if they use him properly, which again, they've always been more of that man heavy scheme. I don't know if he's going to be a starting player in a man scheme. I just don't know. That's my
I agree he could do well in a Fangio scheme like that. I don't think he's all that great at zone. I think he's much better. Like, he excelled at press man. That's where he made his, like, that's where his draft stock came from. And I get it, like, I'm afraid of that, but also he was winning in the SEC and like against good receivers. And so I think so the way I see him, I think if he succeeds, it will be in a press man scheme. So quite opposite fronts on that. And that's just kind of the dichotomy of draft evaluation. And so I think they're taking the swing and hoping that it works out. And the Patriots are a team that would do that.
That's true. They would be the one that would try to make it work. So I get that.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you have for us, Zach?
All right. So I did all 12 picks.
All right, let's run through them pretty quick.
And
we want to be able to react to them. So
started with a trade.
Okay.
In the 1st round, I received 3 different offers in my because that's what I don't know if it works PFF. With y'all. Yeah, with PFF.
It's a little different, but
with PFF, I don't know if it does that, but like they will send you, like, if a team wants to trade with you.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So
I'll do that.
Green Bay offered the pick behind me, 15.
So 15. Okay.
15 and 45 for 14 and 76. And I was like, yes, I'm taking that. I instantaneously get another 2nd round pick. They only move up 1. I move 1 back. I don't really think there's anything on the board for me that is like that pressing that I would miss out. And I took Joey Porter Jr. So a great start for the Patriots to really start getting that defense back to the Belichick era prime that it used to be.
Mhm.
And then with the second round, that gives me 45 and 46 back to back.
Fun.
To which I took Iowa linebacker Jack Campbell with 45, and then double dipped very, very quickly with another cornerback with DJ Turner out of Michigan.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
I like that. He'd be a fun player for them.
So that all of a sudden they have completely addressed the back half of their defense.
Yeah.
The fourth round, I finally addressed some offense. I took wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State with 107. With pick number 117, I took edge rusher Zach Harrison from Ohio State. And then with pick 135, I took Pitt linebacker Servochea Dennis.
Servakier.
I believe it's Servakier, but yep.
Yeah,
Servakier. Okay.
Yeah,
I had no idea with the capital V. I was like,
it's not the easiest name in the world to pronounce.
No.
Just reading it off.
So even with the fourth round, I'm still like addressing areas of need, but like we said, we're starting to get to the point where these guys, if they're gonna hit, they're gonna hit. If they're not,
they're not. Yeah,
I get that. So then the sixth round, I did my first pick was defensive tackle Colby Wooden out of Auburn. Okay. And then I was like, this is way too many picks. I'm getting very bored, and I decided to have fun. So
this is why we're not GMs, by the way. This is exactly why most people shouldn't be GMs. But
so with 3 picks later, pick 187, I took wide receiver Demario Douglas out of Liberty.
Okay. Yeah, he's had some hype. Yeah.
Yeah, their wide receiver room is interesting. With Juju as your 1 and Devontae Parker as your 2, you might need to find some other options to challenge. And then I think this is the only quarterback that I selected in all of my mock drafts. There is some quarterback turmoil in
you think
in New England right now.
A little bit. Yeah.
So I took a developmental prospect. Quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA at 192.
Okay.
I think that his play style, he played great last year. UCLA was fantastic last year.
Yeah.
And Cam Newton didn't do too bad with Bill Belichick. I think not that they're the same player, but like you start to get more into thinking of that offense as not so much as a pass first offense with the quarterback, but some running as well. You need to shake some stuff up in New England. You need to change, go away from what was the status quo with Brady. Yeah. And I think that might be Belichick's one chance of being like, hey, he's here. It's available. Let's do it. Pick number 210, I took App State running back Cameron Peoples because he was still on the board and he had been on the board for a while. And then ironically, with pick 245 in round 7, I took Bowling Green defensive tackle Carl Brooks.
Wow. He was all the way down to 245. Yes. That's crazy.
Yes. So when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. Well, we did pick the same player for them, just in very, very different positions. And thus,
I mean, this is mock drafts.
And thus mock drafts and different boards.
So real quick, Tony, I do want to get your thoughts on his mock here, but the thing I want to point out with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I will just go ahead and say this now. He's quarterback 6 for me, so I don't think he'll be there. And honestly, the only reason that Hooker's ahead of him is just because I think that he's more ready to play right now if he was able to play ready. But it wouldn't take much to convince me that I might be able to put him at 5 instead of 6. So that's where I'm at with him. So if he's there at 192, hilarious. Also, Bill would make him a receiver. So there's
exactly.
That's the problem I have with it. But besides that, I like that pick though because it's hilarious to me that he would be the one that would go to New England. But
adding on to that joke, I strongly considered Malik Cunningham out of Louisville to them with just 210, but I couldn't ignore Warren McClendon. But it's funny, like that type of quarterback going there. Now Malik Cunningham, I think, is a true position switch. DTR has actual quarterback upside, but still the same idea there.
I think either for the Jets or the Bills, it was either Jake Haener or Malik Cunningham, where it was really late, and I was like, why not?
Well,
But
we'll
I
find
didn't.
out,
But I
yeah.
didn't.
But so, with that being said, let's move into the last team for you guys, and then I have a little surprise for you after that I'll tell you about. But I'm gonna go with we're gonna start with the Jets here. Let's go back to Zach to start off. What do you have for the Jets? Them doing what?
All right. First pick of the Jets, I took Peter Skoronski. He was still on the board at 13. Offensive guard. You are supposed to be having Aaron Rodgers come. You need protection. I did pick both 42 and 43. I think no matter which one that they select, they would get their pick of either one if they're still available, no matter if they did pick 42 or 43. So this is more of just like pick your poison. I did John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota at 42. They need a center. And then Will McDonald, the fourth, an edge rusher at 43. Like we said, one of those might not be there. Just depends on what happens if it gets done before the draft. With their fourth round pick at 112, I took an offensive tackle. I took Carter Warren out of Pitt. This is very much a, hey, Aaron Rodgers, see what we're doing for you. We want you to be happy.
He's a solid mid-round tackle.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Yeah.
With their fifth round pick, and pick number 143, I took Virginia wide receiver Dontavion Wicks.
Okay.
He's getting a little bit of hype. Just Virginia wide receivers are a bit weird. Their whole stuff is weird. How they do stuff. I see them play all the time.
Yeah. I know
I don't think Brocco Mendenhall is still there anymore, but when he was, they used to hand out their jersey numbers by like how valuable you were to the team.
Yeah, he was an interesting coach.
Yeah. And then their sixth round pick 207, I took Oklahoma defensive tackle Jalen Redmond. Yeah, the Jets are very top heavy with their draft, and falls off pretty quickly. But this is an offensive protection draft class.
Yeah, totally fair. What do you think, Tony? What'd you do for them?
So to give my thing first, so Aaron Rodgers, I modeled out the compensation, basically exactly what Shayne said at the start of the show. So I have them trading pick 42. Their 2024 third, which I'll call like a conditional. I'd say it can even go as high as a 1, depending on whatever conditions they choose. And then I also have Corey Davis going over.
I think gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah, it feels pretty automatic. It's
Corey
an Alan
Davis
Lazard
is a Packers
replacement.
Receiver in disguise right now. That's what he is. So
exactly. Yes. Yeah. And so that nets them Aaron Rodgers.
How ironic that they're gonna send Aaron Rodgers for a first round wide receiver.
Right there you go. Top 10 receiver too. Top 10 pick.
Yeah, top like 4,
top 5
5?
really. Yeah. 5, yeah.
So they were on the clock at 13, and so I already said how the Patriots jumped ahead and got Paris Johnson Jr. at 10. Immediately after, so Peter Skoronski was already off the board. Paris Johnson was off the board. Broderick Jones went off the board, and by the time it got to the Jets, I was looking at tackles who I didn't value high enough, and I was like, I might want to trade back. And if I lose all these tackles, I'll just go center and hit a mid-round tackle. I didn't have to worry about that, though. I traded back with the LA Chargers. They offered up, so agreed on compensation. It was 21, 85, and a 2024 3, and that made the trade value chart happy. Right. I also think they get to recoup that 2024 third that they're sending for Aaron Rodgers, so that's nice for them. They trade back, and they still get Darnell Wright, tackle out of Tennessee, at pick 21. He is a right tackle only, which like darn, but ultimately right now you have Mekhi Becton, who you're hoping can return to what he was his first year. You have Dwayne Brown, who's like 41, 42. Max Mitchell was pretty cool last year, but he had that blood clot issue, and he can play the right or the left side. Lock in your right side. You now have a guaranteed starter, good right tackle on your right side, and the rest can figure it out on the left side. Yeah. Then at pick 43, I have them going Joe Tippmann, center out of Wisconsin. So you get your stud tackle in the first round, you get your starting center in the second round. I think it's perfect. I really like Joe Tippmann. With the Chargers pick in round 3, pick 85, I have them taking Dorian Williams, linebacker out of Tulane. He's a little bit small, but he's a very good coverage linebacker, will linebacker. I think he'd be a lot of fun in Robert Saleh's scheme, and just, adding to that room. Then at pick 112 in round 4, we've got Chandler. I don't know how to pronounce this. Zavala. I don't know where the emphasis is on that, but
yeah, it's Chandler Zavala. Yeah.
Okay. The guard out of NC State, truthfully, by the time we get to the draft, I don't think he'll be available after 100,
No.
maybe even after like 50. But
We'll
right now
see,
he's
yeah.
there, so I'll take him. And honestly, I think you can net 3 starters out of this. He can replace Laken Tomlinson based off of what Tomlinson showed last year. So
It's true. Yeah.
pick 143 in the 5th round. I've got Corey Trice, cornerback out of Purdue. He recently rose up the PFF board and forced me to watch him. And I really like him. He's big. He's physical. He eats in press. I don't think he allowed one press reception one reception in press man all year. So what you just had in Sauce Gardner, continue to invest in the secondary. You now have a guy who changes the math on one side. Try to find somebody else on the other side who also makes it really hard. Just continue to invest in your secondary. And on that note, I have them at pick 207 in the 6th round, going Jason Taylor out of Oklahoma State. Another just strong, more of a coverage safety, but just really stocking the cupboard there, hoping you're finding stars late, because any stars you can pair with Sauce Gardner, you're just reaping the benefits of. So all in all, I've got Darnell Wright in a trade back, Joe Tippmann in the 2nd round, Dorian Williams in the 3rd, Chandler Zavala in the 4th, Corey Trice in the 5th, and Jason Taylor in the 6th.
Those first 4 picks, I think, the Jets will be pretty happy.
Excited.
I can't say that, especially just being able to get Zavala too in there, because their offensive line, like their biggest needs are obviously a tackle at this point, because you don't know what Becton's situation is. Brown's old. Mitchell, I think, is best as a swing tackle, even though I think he's a capable right tackle. Him being your swing makes you feel a lot better than him being your starter. So right there is awesome. Again, those first 4 picks, really, they're just really, I think the Jets will be in a good position next year, which unfortunately for you guys, but if that was
if they walk out of this draft with 3 starters on their O-line, I'm going to feel really
Tippmann
really
is
upset.
personal favorite. I'm a Wisconsin guy, you know that. Benton also a favorite of mine, So big center, really like what he can do for them too. So really their whole offensive line changes and for the better. So
yeah, and I did just look it up. Dwayne Brown is 37 years old and has been in left tackle for 15 years in the NFL.
Yeah,
that is insane.
He's up there.
That is insane.
I thought he was in his 40s straight up.
Right, more power.
He's been around so long.
Yeah, right, you'd think so. Yeah.
Let's go Virginia Tech. Hokie, baby.
Hey, you gotta hang on to something, right, Zach? Anyway. So real quick before I get into my mocks for the AFC North, I did do just because I thought it'd be fun. I did my own Bills and Dolphins mock draft myself, just for the two of you, so you guys can see what I want to do. So I'll start with the Bills, of course, because they're gonna be the team that has more picks here. So similar to you, Tony, where you didn't really love the value at 27 whenever on your board, I didn't really either. So I actually did move down. I moved down to 36 with the Los Angeles Rams. They came up and I believe got one of the tackles that were still on the board because it's a big need for
Makes
them.
sense.
But I traded 27 for pick 36 and pick 77 in the 3rd round this year.
I love that.
3rd round pick. So for my pick, though, at 36, I got Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the edge out of Kansas State. The same reason that you said about targeting edge, like they just don't have a lot outside of Miller, who you're hoping can come back. But then they have, obviously, Rousseau as the starter. You don't want to have Epineza have to be the starter. Like you said, you kind of talked about that. So that kind of solves that problem. I think he can come in right away and be a high-effort edge guy, a really good player on the 2nd round there. So then pick 59, a personal favorite of mine, watching a lot of Illinois tape for both Witherspoon and because of the fact that I'm just a Big Ten guy, Sidney Brown, safety of Illinois. Ball production, speed, everything you'd want in a safety prototypically. He's a little smaller than maybe one of your prototype safety, but still great. They need to plan for the future. I think he can come in and be an impact player too right away if you want to play him in some 3 safety packages, things like that. Pick 77, Marvin Mims, right, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Again, you talked about Zay. Like Zay is personally outside of GSN my number 1 receiver in this class, but I understand the size, quickness thing. There's a lot of guys that can do that. You get that with Mims here at 77. Pick 91, Kobe Turner, a guy you talked about too as well. I think just more interior players. They need more of those types of guys. Ed Oliver probably going to be gone, for better or for worse. Pick 130. I actually went Sean Tucker, running back. I think just adding a guy who's a little bit different than what they have, and he's a home run threat, even though he's not necessarily just a speed player. He's got some size and power to him for the build that he has. Could really help their running group a little bit. Tight end Zach Kuntz, again, we talked about him earlier too. for me, like again, you take a flyer on a guy like that with Josh Allen because he can get down the field as a tight end despite the fact that he's so big, right? He can be kind of almost a vertical seam type of threat for him. And then pick 205, you also talked about this player in one of your mocks, Marte Mapu. I think you put him in you can play him in safety if you want to, but I think he's more of a linebacker, hybrid type of player. You let him play that role. Really fun player for them. And then for the Dolphins, similar to Zach, actually, I think the same pick here. Jahmyr Gibbs was there at 51. Too much fun not to do it. If you're loading up on offense, kind of stick with that. Pick 84, Wanya Morris, player you talked about, Tony. I took for a tackle for them. I think he could at least compete for a job. They need help on the offensive line, obviously, still, whether Tua is there or not in the future. They need to protect their quarterback better. I took a flyer on a tight end, Josh Wiley, Cincinnati at 197. He's just big body tight end, more of kind of probably what they want. See if he can come in and help that room out. And then just took a flyer on Jordan McFadden out of Clemson with pick 238 as an offensive tackle. So.
I like those both a lot. I loved your Bills draft. I think it was definitely like a solid approach. Checked a lot of boxes. I was before Jordan Poyer ended up coming back, I was flirting with Sidney Brown at pick 27 in a lot of my mocks.
He's really good, man. He's really good.
I do love that. And if we're gonna put a pick in safety, Sidney Brown really excites me. So
he's fun. He's a lot of fun.
Very happy with that.
Any mock draft with Jahmyr Gibbs is a good mock draft to me. So.
Yeah, I know you're a big Jahmyr Gibbs guy. So
I hated that in both of yours. Really hated that personally.
And I mean, it's the home run hitter. They don't. I love Mostert and I love Jeff Wilson Jr. But like they're not.
Mostert's older. He's still got the speed, but he's an older player. Wilson is more of just kind of do it all back. He's not really a true speedster by any means.
They have long needed since the departure of Jay Ajayi a 3-down, give him the ball and go. Because since then we have not had anybody close to that. I mean, not last year. I think it was the year before when they went on that stupid run. There was one dude that they had that I forget who it was. Was it? It was undrafted guy from the Broncos. Philip Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually played halfway decently, and then they were like, "Yeah, no, goodbye. See you later."
Lindsay kind of had his 15 minutes and hasn't really.
I think he's in the XFL now, right? Did I see you just sign with an XFL team, like the Seattle one?
I believe so.
Probably.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to jump into my mock for the AFC North. So I'm going to leave the Steelers for the end just because, it's my team. But I'm actually going to, just because they have the most picks and I'm the least confident about these picks, I guess. The Browns have a ton of picks. Not any high ones, really, but they have a ton. So we're going to start with that.
How many? Is it as bad as the...
It's not as bad as the Patriots, but there's a lot of mid to late round picks where I'm like, okay, I got to find guys that I...
The 4 6th rounds is what was really
that was
bad.
Yeah, that's overwhelming.
Yeah, there's a reason I just did mocks for you guys, just because I wanted to have fun. But so with Browns, I'm going to start with their pick. So pick 74, Javon Dexter, interior defensive lineman out of Florida. I think he'll go higher than this, but he's the type of guy that they would definitely take a chance on. Big, athletic, does have some issues. My main thing with him is he kind of plays like his start off the line of scrimmage is kind of like what I imagine mine would be. Which is not good, obviously.
What's crazy though is he has like the makeup speed. So
yes, that's what I'm saying. Is it almost doesn't matter, but it makes him look like an average athlete opposed to an unbelievable athlete, which is what he is. So if a team can, that's something you can coach. But if you can coach that up with him, he's gonna wreak havoc for them in the interior. So that'd be a good pick for them. Pick 98. Similarly, I'm just building up the trenches. Now this is where I like this player a lot, and I think that he could go this high, and I don't know if he will. I have Carl Brooks at 98. Browns. He is the type of hybrid guy that I like because he showed the ability to play edge in college at his size, but I think he's going to fit as a 3-tech in the pros. So he has the experience outside, which has given him a different perspective than a lot of interior players have come in the draft. Pass rush skill sets much more defined than a lot of guys in this range. I think he's going to be really fun for them if he were to end up there.
And you already know he's comfortable living in Ohio, so
he is exactly. Noah Sewell at 111. So just a big bodied linebacker. They don't really have that type of player. JOK is awesome for them, obviously, but they don't really have that big thumper type. And Sewell tested a little bit better than I actually thought he would at 4.64 about 245. He checked the box of I'm not worried about him as an athlete at the NFL level despite his size. So I like that for them. Pick 126, Keitrell Clark, one of my favorite players in the entire draft class. slot corner. He play a little bit outside too. You ran really well, so I think he has the speed to hold up there. But really good slot player. One of the more instinctive players I think I've ever seen. Like watching him blow up screens is hilarious. If you guys like, just look up Keitrell Clark and like most of his highlights are probably going to be him just destroying screens. Like he knows they're happening before the offensive player even starts doing anything. It's kind of hilarious. So I would be afraid of that for the Steelers because we like our little quick passes. Don't think that would work too well against the Browns with that. So pick 140, Colby Wooden, kind of interior, outside, kind of hybrid guy as well. I'm just kind of throwing a lot of bodies at this group because they were awful in the interior defensive line last year. Like they brought in, I forget the defensive lineman Dalvin Tomlinson. They brought him in free agency, but that's pretty much it. So, they're really relying on the guys they drafted the past couple of years to come in and help. So I think adding all these guys would be helpful. 142, I'm taking a chance on Bryce Ford-Wheaton, West Virginia wide receiver, big, fast. I really liked his tape against Pitt, the first game of the year. I was watching that game, scouting the game, really impressed with him there. I think he has kind of like almost in the Donovan Peoples-Jones type of player where I don't know if his
I think that's the exact
high.
player I'd compliment.
Yeah, but he's I think he can get there and then maybe you don't have to pay a guy like Peoples-Jones to stick around, that type of thing. And then pick 190. I have them taking Jake Haener, quarterback. I want to get a guy in there that has like a higher floor as like a true backup in case anything happens with Watson, as we kind of think could definitely.
And all about their current backup.
Yeah. So
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, like I just want to get somebody in here. I think that he's a type of guy, like he may never be a consistent starter, obviously, because he's not that type of player, but I think he could win a couple games with the right core around him, which they're trying to build with the Browns. And then last pick, another guy that I've already talked about before, Marte Mapu, safety linebacker hybrid guy. I think he would kind of fit as a kind of JOK backup / developmental guy linebacker for them as well. So that's what I have for the Browns. Any comments, questions on them?
Who was the linebacker that you selected early?
Noah Sewell from Oregon.
Yeah. And is he middle linebacker?
Yeah, middle. He's Mike linebacker for sure.
Man, I would not want to be a game announcer having to say the names on the Browns defense is all I would say if they do that. That linebacker room is Jock, and then it would be Sewell, and then it would be Sion Taki.
Yeah, there's a lot of names in that group. That's an all-name linebacker group for sure.
Oh yeah, fun name, top tier.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Tony?
Yeah, so I think you made the right move. Just investing in the front seven specifically.
Yes. That's where the
like
Browns are.
Cleveland's run defense last year was hilariously bad, just truly anemic. They let everything through. So definitely like the investment. I am a bit concerned, like triple dipping at D tackle. I guess like Colby Wooden or Carl Brooks you can call as like an outside inside.
Wooden especially, I have him as a big-bodied edge type for them as like a backup. Because he weighed in 273 at the combine, which is much more reasonable for like a bigger bodied edge. So
yeah, I think he probably could play the edge and probably would, given the first two picks in Dexter and Brooks. I would have liked to see like a 330 pounder, but other than that, I think the draft makes a lot of sense. And Marte Mapu, like backing up JOK, makes a ton of sense. Noah Sewell is a complete opposite body type. If you want to fix your run game, he's your guy. Yeah. Don't ask him to do anything in the pass game, but he can fix the run game.
That's JOK's spot for sure.
Yeah, so I like that. And then Jake Haener, I like a lot as a backup. So I think that's a smart investment on their part because Dobbs isn't it.
No, I don't think so, unfortunately. So I'm going to go through the Bengals next just because they would be the actual first team we normally start with. But with the Bengals, 28, Darnell Washington. Makes too much sense to me. I think that he still could go earlier than this. I've talked about how I kind of view him as like technically my tight end one. I don't know if depending on what you really truly want from your tight end. Like if you need a move tight end, Kincaid. If you want all-around player, Mayer. But Washington is just very unique. And I think that for certain teams, especially the Bengals, who guess what? They just need guys who can move people in the run game and can protect as well. He can kind of be that sixth offensive lineman type. I know you talked about, especially in the run game, I think that his reps are streaky for sure. But as a pass protector, I think he's very solid. And if you keep him in on pass pro, or you can let him kind of leak out as well, if he can get it dipped in, he can really help them kind of keep Burrow both healthy and also give him another weapon to use. Pick 60, Eric Stevenson, I do not believe will be here. But for some reason, he was on the board here for me, and I could not avoid that. Just prototype press man corner. I think that he's probably going to go a little bit later than maybe he would in normal drafts because of how deep the class is at corner. Yeah. But I wouldn't hesitate to use a late first, early second on him. I really, because he showed it for multiple years at Miami that he can play that type of scheme. He has the body type for it, has enough speed. really like him a lot. That would be kind of difficult for us to deal with Bengals. They don't need any more help, but I'm going to get it there. Pick 92. This is where I had Chandler Zavala because you talked about him, Tony. I think this is more the range where he can go. I think he's definitely going to be the best or the top pick from the scouting combine invite list for sure.
Oh yeah, he was a snub.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about, but yeah, he comes in. They need more help on the offensive line. I know they brought in Orlando Brown Jr., but they need help across the entire offensive line. That'd be really helpful. He could slot in it probably ahead of Cordell Volson at guard for sure, I would say.
I mean, they currently on their active depth chart only have one right guard. So
yes, again, that's I think could be definitely a pick for them that we could see. Pick 131, Israel Abanikanda, running back. Mixon,
like that.
Mixon has some stuff going on in the news again. I don't know what that's about. We'll see what happens.
Again, wait, is this?
It's the same thing, but they recharged him basically.
Yeah, they pulled the charges and then they recharged him.
Yeah,
so.
it's weird. So I don't know what his situation is, but regardless, they need more help at running back with Piran going to Denver. With Mixon's back or not, really doesn't matter. Abanikanda is a true home run hitter. One cut, just go. Dude flies, and they could use some more true speed on that offense with really mostly Chase being the speed threat there. So pick 163, Quindell Johnson, safety. I think for him, it's just ball skills. Like he makes plays on the ball. They don't have Bates anymore. They're going to replace him with their first round pick last year, which for some reason I can't think of his name right now, but he was really a big favorite of mine.
Dax Hill, Michigan.
Yeah, exactly, Jackson Hill.
Yeah,
he's probably going to be the true free safety for them now that Bates is gone. But this guy could come in and I think really play very well. It's like the third safety for them right away if need be. Pick 206. This one was interesting, and I mostly did it because I don't like the fact that their backup right now is someone. Jake Browning is the listed backup for the Bengals for Burrow. Stetson Bennett, quarterback, Georgia.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Speaking of off-field issues at the moment, I mean,
listen. I just this feels like a team that he would go to. Like I feel like for sure that one they don't really care about that clearly. And then also the fact that again I think he's backup quarterback in the NFL. Like I know people keep like trying to like either say that he's like way too good or that he shouldn't even be in the league. I think he is what he is. He's a guy that's played a lot. He has a lot of experience. I think he's athletic. Like he can do a lot of different things. Not anything particularly great, but I think it's enough to be a backup in the NFL.
Look, and if people are going to go to bat for Hendon Hooker to be a starter in the NFL, and you're going to fault Stetson Bennett for his age, you just need to take a step back.
It's more.
There's so many other things that you could say about Stetson Bennett than be like, oh yeah, he's been in college for so long. Okay, great.
That's not really my biggest concern.
Yeah,
especially because he's not a guy you're profiling to be a starter. You just want a guy who can come in and play.
Exactly.
Yeah, my main concern is the playing of football. That's the concern I have with him. The playing of the football.
I like this whole age debate that has been going on the past couple of years.
This class is just
out of
affected by COVID.
Exactly.
Everything happened with that. Like it is what it is. You got to just play around it and deal with it. But in the last pick, I just took a flyer on Jacob Slade, Michigan State interior defensive lineman. Last guy on the board. Don't really know a ton about him. Even though I watched a lot of Michigan State, didn't really see him pop a ton. But he's a guy that I had there. But Tony, what do you think? Do you think that's a good flyer pick for him or no?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I was like, oh shit, we might have like a first round prospect on our hands. And then he just never put it together. Okay. So he's a guy that just continues to have really dominant flashes and then it's just pretty mediocre the rest of the time. If you can put it together, that's a late round flyer worth taking because he has shown special stuff. It's just that it's rare on his film.
Awesome. Okay, so that's good to know. Then I'm going to move on to the Ravens pick here. So pick 22, Deonte Banks, corner out of Maryland. Keep him home. I think he'll go higher than this. He tested as one of the best athletes corner ever. He didn't do his athletic, his agility testing, but I didn't see many issues with that. He's maybe a little stiff, but I think it's more just the way he plays. He doesn't really do that a lot.
I think he's got the makeup, speed, and acceleration too. Anything he sacrifices in like the wiggle,
Does
he slot in next to or in place of Brandon Stevens?
He's going to be one of the starting outside guys for sure. And then you allow Humphrey to kind of move around a little bit more because that's what he's best at doing for sure.
Marcus Peters may still be on the roster, but is he even still on the roster? But he's no good.
He's not. He's technically not on the depth chart.
Good. That's good for them.
Bad. Not good. Then you go
He's
all
a
the way down to pick
distraction.
87 with the Ravens because they did trade their second round pick to get
Mm.
Roquan Smith, so that belongs to the Bears. So 87, Jaden Reed, Michigan State wide receiver.
I love it.
Yes, I want to. This is the type of player that you should have drafted to be the deep threat instead of trying to use a first round pick on Marquise Brown. I like him a lot in that role for them, regardless who the quarterback is. They need some more true, like, be able to go out and play receiver and not just whatever they've been trying to do with receiver for the past few years, like that. Because this is a separate draft than the Miami Dolphins and Bills draft. You're about to see someone else that I've drafted before. Sean Tucker at 124 for them. Just add more running back depth to that team. You obviously have a lot of guys there, but they're either not healthy all the time or you worry about just whether or not they can hold up full time. Pick 157, Daniel Scott, rangy safety out of California, I believe it is, right?
Yep, Cal Berkeley.
I didn't write that. Yeah, he's so the problem with him is he's again. We talked about this. It's not a huge concern, but he's 25. Safety a little bit more concerning than quarterback, obviously age wise. So turning 25, rangy safety doesn't tackle very well though. So I view him as more of kind of like the backup to Marcus
Williams.
Yeah, Marcus Williams, backup for him. You already have a guy that they drafted last year. Like you just have a lot of players there, but I'd like to see some more range back there. Another flyer on an older prospect, but just kind of had a really good combine showing, and I'm kind of curious about him just because of his size profile. Matt Landers, Arkansas wide receiver, 6'5", 200 pounds.
Got that
fast
speed.
As heck. He kind of, he's not Miles Boykin because Miles Boykin's a really good special teamer and blocker type, but like they like that type of like big, fast, tall receivers in the past. Take a flyer on him. I think this is mostly just them filling out depth and then also adding a true like starter with Deontay Banks and Jaden Reed probably too with their depth at receiver right now. So,
yeah, I will say the only thing on that is if this happens, man, I really hope they find a way to keep Lamar because I love Jaden Reed so much, and I want so much for him to play with a real quarterback.
Yes.
Because I know that him and Peyton Thorne are best friends. They went to high school together.
Yeah,
but he needs to catch passes from somebody else because Peyton Thorne sucks. And there were so many reps where like Jaden Reed was able to show off his contested catch ability despite having like a 10-yard cushion when the throw was made. Like it
can fly.
He burns guys, and he never really, I don't know, the production wasn't there because his quarterback play was so bad. So I just hope that he has a good quarterback.
Yeah. He definitely feels like a better pro than college player type of guy.
Yes,
like one of those guys for sure. Anything you wanted to add, Zach, with what I did there?
No, I mean you're hitting very good on need and like where all these teams really need to focus for pretty much everything so far. I'm just very interested to see if it continues with the Steelers or there's a bit of like, no, I really want this to happen. Let's do this.
So the first thing I'm going to do is for the Steelers, this is the only team that I didn't trade with. And I moved up very, very, like it was very quick move up. So it was very short. So moved up to pick 15. And I took the same player that Zach took for this team that was at 15 in one of his mocks. Joey Porter Jr. at 15, I jumped ahead of the Washington Commanders to get him with the Packers. The trade was just, I think I gave up a future third and like a late round pick or next year as well. Like nothing this year because I wanted to keep our picks this year. Packers just loading up for next year in case things don't go well. So I moved up to 15 with a small trade with the Packers to get Joey Porter Jr. This is the guy that if they're going to take a corner in the first round, it feels like that's who it's going to be. I don't think at this point, Banks, I would see them taking at 17 if he makes it to them, which I think he will, but he doesn't hit all the pro day visit, he doesn't hit all those marks for what they normally look for with their first round pick of getting that done. So he might not be on the table at 17. So move up, make sure I get my guy, big, long press man corner, one of the longest corners ever that we've ever seen at the Common. Like just awesome measurables. He has enough speed, nothing really in his game other than the ball skills that really concern me a little bit. So, and trust me, as a Steelers fan, we know the ball skills is pretty much just the old boy back there with Fitzpatrick. That's about it that we got as far as ball skills go. So we'll live with just that. Pick 32, DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle, Ohio State. He is the prototype of what Andy Weidel has been looking at for the Eagles for a long time, and now that he's with the Steelers, big, long, can just get in the way of guys, does not have to worry about the quickness as much with this team because they're really going to be focusing on the running game. But when we do drop back and pass, just give somebody out there that's going to be really hard to get around. And we do a lot of quick passing anyway. I think he'd be a perfect fit for what they're trying to do. Pick 49.
We talked about that last week. Is that the consensus pick 32 if he's not taken in the first round?
I would say so. I think so. He
literally
literally fits every profile for them, and he had a visit with them. He's a top 30 visit with them. They went to Ohio State. Like Everything checks out. I think they could even take him at 17, which I think would be way too high, but it wouldn't surprise me that much.
He's definitely on their board there.
Yes,
like
100%.
I think that's.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if Porter goes, I could see them just.
It's possible. I'm not gonna lie.
Next.
Would I hate it? No, because I like the player, but I would like to get him later. So that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Pick 49. This is again where do I think he'll be here? Probably not, because again, Tony and I have talked about this player a couple times now. I think that he's probably a late first, early second round pick, but Keanu Benton at 49, if he's there, he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He is visited with them. He's going to be one of their top 30 visits. I think that he would be the pick of 32 if DeJuan Jones isn't there. So he was still on my board. I took him. Will he be there? Like I said, probably not, but we'll move on with that. So pick 80, DeMarvion Overshown, linebacker out of Texas. If you were building a linebacker for the modern NFL and you wanted him to look like somebody, it probably would be this guy. He has all the tools you could ever ask for. He's raw still a little bit, but he's shown a lot. I think that if you bring him in and let him be kind of the third linebacker to start off and let him kind of ease into things, he could be that prototype linebacker that the Steelers have not had since Ryan Shazier went down with his injury, really, because we hoped it would be Devin Bush. Was not, we'll just say, to be fair and nice to him. He was not that guy.
Congrats,
so.
Seattle.
Yeah, good job, Seattle. He'll maybe play for you. Anyway, so you get that guy in there. I think he'd be a really good developmental linebacker. KJ Henry, pick 120, edge out of Clemson. Big body edge player. He's a really high floor guy for me. I think he's going to be really good run defender in the NFL regardless, and I think he's got a little bit more pass rush upside. That Clemson defensive line, it felt like it just, despite the talent there, really kind of underperformed this past year, and I think part of that is coaching, part of it's injuries with guys like Murphy and stuff like that. But I like him a lot. I think he could really raise the floor of our depth at edge, because we've seen the past couple years when TJ Watt went down and Alex Highsmith is by himself. Highsmith can still perform. Nobody else can. Malik Reed might have been the worst edge player in the NFL last year for us, and he was starting games for us at one point because of TJ Watt being out. It just got ugly. I don't want to see that. Bud Dupree could be back. He did visit with us. We'll see if he comes back on a short-term deal. But either way, we need a lot more depth at edge, so I wanted to go there. Now we'll go all the way down to 234. So there's a big gap here. That's part of what I kind of wanted to trade down at 17 if I felt it was viable, but I saw the first two corners go. I'm like, I got to go get JPJ, so we're going to do that. But pick 234, DJ Dale, interior defensive lineman out of Alabama. Just Alabama defensive lineman. I'll take a shot at him, right? Why not?
Worth bringing in the room.
Yeah. And then pick 241, Jaden Hazelwood, former 5-star Oklahoma receiver, moved to, I believe, I forget where he played this past year. I forgot to double check.
Arkansas.
It was Arkansas. That's right. Yeah, Arkansas. So he's, again, former 5-star. We love our premium players that we used to have that pedigree. The Steelers like to go after those guys, take a late round flyer on that guy. We don't have a lot of receiver depth right now. We're hoping that Calvin Austin can come back healthy and kind of be that third slot type of guy, but definitely needs some more depth there. So that would be the Steelers. That's the Steelers mock I have for him right now.
No special teams.
No
anybody.
I actually did evaluate if a team could potentially pick a kicker or punter, and then just never cared about it while I was going through the exercise.
I would say probably the only team that would is the Dolphins.
I think the Dolphins and the Patriots would both be willing to pick a kicker.
The Dolphins definitely, because something needs to be done about Jason Sanders.
Does something need to be done about Jason Sanders or your punter, though? Because we know, when you have a great holder, Jason Sanders is an all-pro. If you want to bring Matt Hawk back in the building, he can't putt for shit, but he is a great holder, and Jason Sanders is a capable kicker with a good holder.
Zach's
let's see how Jake Bailey does.
Jake Bailey.
Yeah, that's the punter for the Dolphins, because Morstead left.
Yeah. Now he's a Jet, staying in the division.
He's a Jet. Yeah, they just cannibalized all of that this offseason.
That's just how divisions work that way. Teams are more familiar with the players' tape, and so they.
Oh yeah.
So I will say on that Steelers draft, if you just press pause after your first 3 rounds, or after your first 3 picks, and say, yeah, we came away with Joey Porter Jr., DeJuan Jones, and Keanu Benton, I'd slap you in the face, because no, you're not allowed to do that. Nobody's allowed to have that good of a draft.
If I was the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say, hey, who wants the rest of my picks? We're done. See you guys later.
After that, I like.
And then you brought in good players after that too. Yeah. I like the next 3 as the depth defenders, and then Jaden Hazelwood is a good dart throw. Yeah. That's a great draft for the Steelers.
Yeah.
I think he'd be very ecstatic coming out of it with that.
I won't be surprised, by the way. So let's assume the first 2 picks happen that way, whether it's 17 or 15 or whatever they do with JPJ. If they get him first and then DeJuan Jones 32, if Benton's still on the board, they're going to come up and get him.
Yeah,
like they're going to come up from 40. They're going to give up, whether it's 120 or whatever they have to give or picks next year. They'll come up and get him if he's still after. Like if they can take Jones and not have to take Benton, I think that's what they'll do. But
so
I wouldn't be
for my 84 selection.
Yeah, that's a pipe dream.
Yeah. Benton. Whenever
maybe back in February.
When they thought he was just a 2-down run defender, nose tackle, you could get him at 84. Once they actually were like, okay, no, he can play all over. Oh, okay, yeah, he's
probably. Oh, then that's the fun thing about the draft process is as like it goes on and on and on, like these boards like completely and radically change. Like
they do.
The top 5, the top 10, like sometimes you can get somebody that pops in there because like nobody was expecting, but then like. Once you get past that, you're going to see people like up until the draft itself where people are like, oh, yeah, no, like this guy could sneak into the first round because like we've watched Bill Belichick take dudes from
Chattanooga.
I don't know if you want to use Bill as the example.
Okay, we saw the Saints take Marcus Davenport. Like there are plenty of examples of like, no, this was the Steelers. And I hate to bring this up. There's no reason that you guys should have taken Terrell Edmonds.
The sad part about it is like if Terrell Edmonds
he turned into a good player in year 4.
If he had been a second-round pick, I don't think anybody has a problem with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he wasn't.
And I'm a Hokies fan. We got the first pair of brothers drafted in the first round together, and I'm still sitting here like, no.
Also, I thought you were about to take a much meaner direction. Terrell Edmonds, like I think, is like we got a good player out of it. It sucks that he wasn't a first-round value. I thought you were going to bring up Artie Burns.
No. Well, I mean, I'm just speaking because, like,
sorry,
like
Shayne.
I said, the Hokies. But
just to give you guys an idea. Now, granted, I was still pretty big in the draft at this point when Edmonds was taken, right? And I knew about Tremaine. Whenever they took Terrell Edmonds in the first round, I looked around and said, "Who?" Because I was like, Edmonds. Wait, he already got drafted, and I'm like, there's another one. I didn't even know.
The opposite of your reaction. I knew Tremaine was going to go in the first round.
Right, of course, yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and this was I was at Tech at the moment. Like we were in my college apartment, and they announced Terrell, and the whole apartment, like the whole city, went nuts.
I bet.
Like we were like
2 first rounders.
Really? And I think actually they might have had 3 that year because there might have been one other player that they had. I can't remember who it was. If not, it was a second round player.
I thought it would have had to be the only other first rounder I could think of off the top of my head is one of the Fullers, right?
Oh, we've had quite a few throughout the years. Right. It's just only like one.
Well, I mean, like recently.
Because
that was 20.
No,
18, right, or what 19? Whatever.
No, freaking did what's his name not go in the first round? Tennessee? Did they not take him in the first round? Cornerback. Caleb Farley.
Oh, that's right. Well, that hasn't. Yeah,
that hasn't. Yeah,
no, but I forgot about him because it's been rough.
But what draft was that? Tremaine
Farley was 2020.
What was the Tremaine Edmonds draft?
2018. 28. No, it was 2018 because Allen was in.
Yeah, it was the Josh Allen draft.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought there was one more, and I'm going to be so mad if there wasn't. I can't remember it because I pride myself in knowing this because they're my boys. Virginia Tech. No. Okay, never mind.
Darisaw.
Oh, yeah. Christian Darisaw. Yeah.
That just came to my mind. I'm like, Virginia Tech. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Wasn't the same year, though,
that wasn't
right?
That was
the Elijah Vera Tucker trade with the Jets.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way.
No, it was just those two. But
both good players. But
and that's the thing is like there's going to be players that come in from colleges that like Tony just said. I don't think there's going to be an Eastern Michigan person that is going to sneak into the first round. But there are colleges that like don't get the same amount of like airtime for their film that's why we're not GMs. That's why we're not coaches.
Well, that's also why you don't hear their names until later in the process because eventually teams get to those guys because they start with the blue bloods because obviously you want to make sure you're checking all your bases there. And then you get the Eastern Michigan like, oh, Jose Ramirez, this edge guy's pretty good. He had a lot of sacks this year. Like that's what just I'm using Eastern Michigan as another example.
I'm just happy there's no like FCS like curveballs that we have to worry about this year.
I mean, Cody Mock, he might do it.
Cody Mock's
I don't think he does
probably
it.
going to be a top 50 pick. Not
Yeah,
a
I
top
think he's
32
like in the
pick,
40 to 60 range. But I mean, in this draft, if you are in the 40 to 60 range, some team might take you in the 30s.
Yeah,
like that's just how it works.
But I mean more like we don't have to worry about like, oh, is this quarterback going to go in the first 5? Like when they still like with the Carson Wentz and all of that stuff. That was so fun. So fun. I love it when those come in.
All right, well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll be back with next week. We're going to do one more mock draft exercise. That's kind of what we want to do, and we'll figure out what that's going to be. But last show we'll have before the draft, we're going to talk about what our last, what do we think could happen in the draft, the first round specifically. We're going to do that. We'll have all the information available that we're going to have at that point, kind of go into it, and we'll see how we differ for sure, because I know we've obviously looking at different things, and I kind of know what I want to do at this point or what I think will happen, but we'll jump into that in a couple of weeks. But thank you guys for joining me, of course, as always, and we'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely.